Today we're going to explore the art of Australia's native people, the Aborigines. Like most native people, the Aborigines used materials that were at hand to create their art. They made large artworks in the outback made of sand and rock. Aborigines were a very spiritual people, and they felt a true connection with the land and nature as a whole. And their belief is reflected in their art, in the symbols, figures, and the colors they used. Today we'll be working with two different Australian art forms, dream paintings and X-ray paintings. We'll be using simple art materials you're probably already familiar with: colored construction paper, colored pencil, marker, and tempera paint. Very simple. Let's begin. This is a perfect example of an X-ray painting done by Aborigines. You'll notice the body of the man, and next to him is a nail fish, and here is the barramundi fish, one of the favorites of the Aborigines for food sources. You'll notice besides the external shape of the fish and the man, that they also have internal organs, a skeletal system, the interior design of the body of the man and the fish. There's an interesting story as to why the Aborigines chose to make X-ray paintings. Their belief was that if you show the internal organs of an animal or a person, you are showing their feelings. You are showing respect for them as a living being and part of nature. Here is a barramundi X-ray painting that I did. Instead of using paint, I used colored pencil and marker. Let me show you how we begin this drawing. I'm using a black permanent marker so that it shows up nice and clear on the film for you, but you will use a pencil. You'll notice that I use sort of a tan-colored paper. Whenever I do these, I like to use a natural colored paper, such as a brown or gray. This cream or tan-colored looks great. So let's draw our barramundi. Notice first, though, the space in which we have to work. You want the fish to be large enough so that it fills the page, but you want to have some extra on the outside. The fish itself will be our positive space, and the outer part will be the negative. So let's draw a barramundi. It has a bit of a sharp nose. It comes up like this, dips down a bit. The tail comes out rather flat, comes back in, the long body, and back up to the mouth. We'll add small fins here and here. Now that we have the external shape, let's put the internal organs in. I will locate an eye right here, and that's a simple little line. Let's put in the long spinal cord of the fish by drawing a simple line like this. We'll put organs in up here, and these can just be simple little shapes like this, and this, and this. I like to make my lines a bit more curved. I think that shapes that are a bit rounded look a little more natural, particularly in nature. And back here with the fins, I'll put in a small design like this and this. I'm going to use colored pencils to do this one, and I like metallic pencils. I think they have a wonderful sheen and a bit of a glimmer to them. So let's start with some variety. When you apply the pencil, you don't want to do this very light pencil. You get no real drama, no vibrance. But if you use the pencil and press down, you get this wonderful color by going over it and filling in the space. Notice by applying it thickly, you get a wonderful shimmer and beautiful colors emerge. Try to stay within your black lines. If you do stray across, you can always touch up the lines later. Let's try a different one here. Once I get all the color in, I take a black marker and I outline these spaces so that they pop out with color. They have sort of a graphic look, which is very exciting to look at. One thing you will notice about these pencils, any colored pencil, is that the lead or the interior of the pencil is very soft. So you are going to have to do a lot of pencil sharpening. Little pieces may break off. As I told you, these pencils do wear down quickly. So this hand pencil sharpener does come in handy. I like to keep a small dish or a little box to collect the shavings, and then we can dump them all at once. This is nothing worse than having little pencil shavings all over your work area or your floor. Now that I have the internal organs done, we're going to color the fish itself. What I have decided to do is switch from a metallic pencil to a regular colored pencil so that the fish has a deep background against the metallic softness of the other colors. Let's stop for a moment. Once you fill in all of your fish with the bright, vibrant color, we need to begin to build the outer spaces. We do this by using a black permanent marker, and it's a very simple process. You can take your marker and simply trace around the outer shape of your object, like this. And you begin to build layers and layers of lines. Once you fill the outer spaces, then you go back in and color each of these areas. You can do that with colored pencil, or if you wish, you can switch to marker. Notice when I run off the paper, I come back in, right here, off again, and pick up the line like this. You can vary the width of these lines and change them any way you wish. Now that we have the color put in the back part of the fish, we are going to put designs in the small internal areas of the tail section. You'll notice that I'm simply putting in a series of straight lines with a black permanent marker, filling in this area. The patterns do not have to be complicated. They can be quite simple. In this small blue tail section here, I'm going back over the blue pencil lines to make sure they look vibrant with a black outline. And in them, I'm going to use some small curved lines like this to create interesting patterns. Next, we'll move to the green area and the blue area right above. Let's take the green area and we can put a series of small circles that overlap. Vary the size. They almost look like bubbles. But they look quite interesting. The thing to remember is to repeat the design over and over until it creates an interesting pattern. In this blue section, I'm going to make little fins. Simply a series of little rounded hills that we attach on top of each other. I'm going to use marker now, and I'm going to make this very first line here, which outlines my fish, a bright lime green. Stay in the lines and make sure that you get good coverage. Try to use a color the first time that's going to look great against the color of the fish. And green is definitely a great color because it is the complement of red. You'll notice that I put a design in the spine area, just a curved line with dots. Once the green is done, I've decided that the next line is going to be a deep purple. I love violet or purple against lime green. Personal preference of mine, but you can use any colors you like together. Oranges and blues, reds and greens, yellows against orange. However you want to do that is fine. Before we go any further, let me show you how to put designs in these beautiful outer lines. You can make a series of lines like this that simply overlap. And those look great. Just remember to keep the same pattern for each of the colors. So you don't want to change your pattern in the middle of the green. Make it go all the way around. Look how simple this is. Few curved lines this way, then that way, and you fill the space and make it stand out and look stunning. Many early works of art or primitive art use simple lines and simple shapes to create beautiful patterns. You can do this. If you're unsure of a design, get a small piece of paper and try some designs out before you put them on your final product. Here's the finished product again. Notice all the bands of color in the negative area that surround the fish. Notice how I used a series of diamonds, lines, dots, circles, scales to create the beautiful designs inside. Now this takes several hours to do to get everything in, and we've just begun on this project. But I wanted you to see how we move from one section to the other to get this final design. This is a dream painting that I did. It's very colorful, filled with symbols, and again, those lovely little dots. So where do you begin? How do you begin? Well, you start with an idea, and then you simply draw it on with a light pencil. I don't think you're going to be able to see this, but that's okay. I'm the artist. This is sort of like an outline that tells me where I need to go. So how do you get all those tiny little dots? Well, a small stick. You can use a Q-tip, a very tiny stick like this, a small one here, or if you want larger dots, you can even use the bottom of a pencil. We're going to begin with the water, and I want my water to be a dark blue and a light blue, a little different than this. So I'm going to take a brush, I'm going to take blue right here, and put a dot of black in it to get a beautiful navy blue. There we go. Because my water is going to have dark areas and light areas to make it very interesting. Now that I have that, I'm going to start with my stick. And I'm going to begin putting a series of dots on my paper. Usually, you'll get about 3 dots at the most every time you dab in. Now the pencil line that I put on guides me to make my circle, and it'll be very helpful to you. I've mixed a light blue paint, and I'm going to use that to put a series of blue dots in with the dark blue. And yes, it does take a while to do this. So some of you may wish to use a larger stick. So if you wish, you could use the bottom of a pencil like this, and the dots you make would be larger. Just make sure that you have enough paint on to cover it to make the larger dots. As you can see, my painting has moved along. My blue dots, which represent the movement of the water through the land, have been completed. I've added the green of the fields where plant life would be, And it's surrounding this wonderful circle of life here, which represents the plants that grow and the spirit of the land. This is a painting that I've just started. Again, I use the circle to represent the life forces of the Aboriginal people. I used bright colors, primary colors, reds, yellows, and blues to dominate. But I wanted to do some more things with this besides just circles and lines. So I painted in 4 different areas with different color. And in each of these areas, I want to tell a story. Down here, inside this bright red, I put animal prints to show a hunting ground. Now that I have the turquoise, I'm going to go over here and decide what I want to do here. I think we'll make this an area where they gather to talk. So I'll take my brush again, go back into the black paint, and create a series of symbols which show me and show the viewer that this is a gathering place where people talk, where people decide things for their tribe, and they gather in a circle to do this. Now this stick I'm using here is a stick that's used for scraping paint back and designing, particularly when you're using something like a scratch board. But it's a very strong stick, and it's a little bit wider than the other one. So your dots are a little bit larger. You can notice the relative size of that compared to this. You might also find that a small cotton swab is good to use. The problem with that is sometimes the cotton will shred off, but it does give you a good mark. Let's take a look at how that last painting could be finished off. Again, the circles of life, the gathering places. Up here I made this a forest, and over here we had creatures that were swimming in the lake. Now all of the dream paintings I've shown you have all been done of paint, but you can use other materials, and let me show you what you can use as an alternative. This painting was actually done with oil pastels. I put in small symbols for trees and plant life, and small houses where the village would be, and animal prints. The sun is done in a series of lines and dots. Over here, we use the dots to represent again the movement of water, the waves of the water, a small lake here, and again in the corner, the circle of life and the force of life of the land itself. If you really want to do an Aboriginal dream painting with the little dots, you can use a smaller version. This is a 9 by 12 piece of paper, half of the size of a regular sheet of construction paper. Some of the dots are larger, some are smaller. We again have the symbols in here. Notice the fish at the top and the snake that's swimming through the lake or the ocean. Or, if you wish, you can make one from marker. Again, we have the dots, the snakes, and notice the fish swimming in the water, the trees, the gathering of people. Let's take a look at some of the paintings that my students did when they did their dream paintings. Today we showed you how to use symbols, how to use art elements, how to use color. So it's your turn now. Use the knowledge we gave you, use simple materials around you, and create your own art, just like the Aborigines did.